Welcome to Thoughts of War. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to my channel. First, who am I? I'm a follower of Jesus Christ as revealed through the Bible. I grew up as a Southern Baptist in the Sola Scriptura tradition. Or in the Sola Scriptura doctrine. Now, let me go ahead and say this. If you're not a Southern Baptist or you do not believe in Sola Scriptura, you still want to follow my videos. I'm still going to cover resources from perhaps maybe Catholic or Orthodox or even other Christian groups. So I still think you'll find something that is interesting to you. So I do have an interest in early church history. And also, this is just me. I've always struggled with Christians killing their enemies. And mainly because I read the scriptures and when Jesus says to love their enemies, I always struggle reconciling that belief of what Jesus said to actually seeing in practice what the church does. And so for me, after reading the scriptures and became convinced of nonviolence, I had to understand, why does my denomination believe what it's believed? So I went to the local Baptist bookstore, purchased a book on why Christians go to war, and it turns out that Baptists mainly believe in the just war theory. And it's kind of interesting because this is a tradition that was grown over several centuries, really in the Catholic Church. And so it's kind of strange to me that as Southern Baptists, we actually reference a Catholic tradition on why we go to war, but for everything else, we say the Catholics are wrong. So it's really strange to me that that's our, go-to doctrine when it comes to killing. But so I disagreed with it because I felt like it didn't hardly use any scripture to justify the beliefs. And when I researched a little more and found that the early church fathers believed in nonviolence, and there was many Christians in the first centuries that believed and practiced nonviolence, then it kind of made me think, okay, I'm pretty sure now both the Bible and what Jesus taught was nonviolence. But let me give you this caveat. I'm not qualified. I do not have a religion degree. I do not know the Hebrew. I do not know the Greek. But I will do the best I can to reference scripture and to reference primary sources. I'll do the best I can for you to follow my logic. I'm just going to try to explain what I believe, why I believe it. You can agree or disagree. I just really are just making these videos in a sense as an educational resource. So if you do not believe in nonviolence, at least you may understand why someone else does believe in nonviolence. And so I was not taught or trained in nonviolence. This is just from my own studies. And so let me give you a Christian view of nonviolence. Notice it's not the Christian view of nonviolence. I do not speak for any one particular group. Matter of fact, the group that I'm probably most associated with is the Baptists. The Baptists do not believe in nonviolence as a whole. For the most part, they do advocate for the just war theory. And for me, there's some struggles with that, because today, if a Baptist in the United States went to war with the Baptist in any other country, which I need to rephrase that. You would never say it that way. You'd say if the United States went to war with, let's say, a European country, let's say France, and there's Baptists in France and there's Baptists in the United States, the Baptists would kill each other on the battlefield, and they would believe they were doing the will of God. Matter of fact, this has already happened. If you just think about the Civil War, you had Baptists in the North and Baptists in the South in the United States, and they'd slaughter each other on the battlefield. Although maybe in the 1830s and 1840s, if they went to some national Christian Baptist conference, they might have prayed together and worshiped together, laid hands on ministers and prayed over them. But, a few decades later, they're killing each other on the battlefield. And so, for me, I really struggle with that. And to me, the Civil War is kind of one of those things that's just puts out a glaring flaw with the just war theory. Because both countries believed they were Christian. They both believed they were doing what God was asking them to do. They were both submitting to the governing authority. However, you had Christian brothers killing Christian brothers on the battlefield. And so that's why I make Civil War kind of my main theme for my website, just because I believe it's a giant hole in the logic of the just war theory. And so the picture I have up there is a boy who collected bullets from a Civil War battlefield. Some of those bullets were from the North, some of those bullets were from the South. I'm not going to cover nonviolence as viewed from other religions. I know Martin Luther King was influenced by Gandhi and his nonviolent strategies against the British. I know along with that there were nonviolent Muslims who also resisted the British. I'm not really covering those territories. I mention again, I do not speak for all believers who practice nonviolence. But I will use Catholic, Orthodox, Anabaptist, Baptist, and other Christian resources. Matter of fact, here's one particular priest that I use occasionally. He has a lot of great resources on the internet. His name is Charles McCarthy. I'm just going to play just a clip from one of his videos.
Nonviolence is central to the teaching of Jesus, central to the gospel, and that the present situation is illogical, and it is also contrary, specifically contrary to the teaching of Jesus. And by the present situation, I mean the present situation, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, worldwide in all the churches since approximately the 4th century.
So notice a couple things. Nonviolence is very central to the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I'll agree with him on that. Another thing is, you notice he says there's a big change that happened in Christianity in the 4th century. So my first video series is just going to be some quotes from these early church fathers. You can kind of see how that change ended up progressing. Now, I just want to share with you my journey to nonviolence. And I would say where I'm at now, I am pretty strong in my beliefs towards nonviolence. I would say I agree with Martin Luther King. And for example, what he would say in this video.
What I'm saying is this. I would like for all of us to believe in nonviolence, but I'm here to say tonight that if every Negro in the United States turns against nonviolence, I'm going to stand up as a lone voice and say this is the wrong way.
So notice how convicted he felt that even if everybody else in the United States, if all the other African Americans said, nonviolence is not the way, he's still going to say, you know what, I've come to a deep conviction that nonviolence is the path. And I would say I'll follow that exact same desires, that nonviolence, or conviction, I guess would be a better word, that nonviolence is the path that we should go. And so I want to make this videos or set of videos because there's many who just do not understand nonviolence, and I'm going to cover some of that in my future videos. I'm going to try to reference sometimes when other YouTubers would make or maybe professors may write articles that reference nonviolence, and I want to mention that often they don't have a good view of even what nonviolence is, or they won't even reference nonviolence. They'll just talk about pacifism, and they'll see that your only option in just war theory is pacifism. So if you don't go and fight for your nation, the only other alternative is to do nothing. And so they leave out a lot of gray area, which the nonviolent believers would say, hey, there's a lot of things you can do between nothing and actually killing someone. And so if you just have not considered this worldview, that's why I'm going to make these set of videos for you just to even consider it, to understand why some believe this particular way. Now, I will say this, it's a worldview. So it's very hard for me to explain nonviolence just like in one little proof text. There's no one little text I can use. For me, it's the way the Bible reads from Genesis to Revelation. And so there's a lot of scriptures I have to cover. And I also have to kind of go against, in a sense, the American culture and the evangelical culture in America, and kind of have to dismantle it to come to nonviolence. And so my current planned series is just want to talk about some misunderstandings on nonviolence, a nonviolent review of scriptures, how do you even get to where I'm at with nonviolence. I want to give you some current news from a nonviolent perspective. And then also, I want to talk about nonviolence and end times. End time videos are popular right now, and so I'm going to take just a little segment of that area, and I just want to talk about nonviolence. So hopefully this gives you a brief overview of what is coming. So please stay tuned, subscribe, and just let me know if you like it. Make comments down below. So hopefully I'll have some more videos heading your way.